The Frankenstein mercenary vehicle, completely formed of various different vehicles, is here on World of Tanks console. So we're going to have a look at what this tank is all about. It is, of course, the brand new Mantis Tier 8 mercenary vehicle that you can pick up right now, of course, in the premium shop. But if you're seeing this in game and maybe you don't actually want to purchase it, at least you'll know how this thing works and how it will kind of play within the game, so you know what to think of when you're coming up against this as well. If you're wondering about this vehicle in the game, or you've seen it and you're wondering how it's managed to take 900 and something hit points of your so well deserved saved hit points at the end of the game, and that is because this tank is, of course, an autoloader. There's a surprise with the turret. It's much like you get with, of course, some of the other vehicles. This one has the Mantis turret, which is essentially, as you can see with the typical shape of it, like a T57 Heavy, like the T67 and like the T54E1. And unlike you'll be seeing with a lot of the T57 Heavies, this one, it definitely still gets the terrible armor. So basically it has these chins on the either side of the, basically a double chin that you can pen on this thing, and it's super easy to be able to pen as long as you're hitting the areas that we're seeing on the left and right here, that green area, basically all of that area on the cheeks is where you want to go, as well as the rear of the turret of this tank if you see it from the side. So it's just basically an easy pen, and even the frontal hull armor, as you can see here, is absolute garbage. It is the kind of LTG sort of hull that you'll be seeing. It doesn't actually define it as that in the garage, but it is basically the LTG hull armor, or a variant of it, and so yeah, it's a bit of a weird nuanced vehicle. And in saying that it's nuanced, we do indeed actually have a ridiculous top forward speed for a medium tank with 63 kilometers an hour. It gets 850 horsepower as well, which gives it a absolutely cracked horsepower to weight ratio of 33.33. and in fact, if I was going to set up this tank having played a little bit, maybe I would actually drop out my I guess gun stabilizer and actually put on the traction system to increase the top speed, just so that you're even faster, more maneuverable, and you can basically out traverse a bit of people within the game, as you don't need the horsepower necessarily compared to some of the other tanks in the game. So I feel like this is actually a really nice one, and it plays really well in game. So we've gone with, of course, vertical stabilizer for the improved accuracy, because it's just basically nice to have that accuracy. When we look at the detailed statistics, you can see 0.28 accuracy is pretty good. I mean, it's up there with some of the nicer kind of areas of accuracy that you see on medium tanks. Is not outrageously good, but it is pretty standard for an autoloader, especially at this tier. So that's really nice. We've got 2100 DPM, which is, how do we say, a little bit lackluster, especially when you compare it to some of the other vehicles. That even the Trinity here has an extra 400, and we don't even have a commander in it. So it's got significantly worse damage per minute than some of the other mediums at the tier, and you'll find yourself kind of waiting quite a while to be able to reload, and that's because it has a 21-second reload, which yeah, feels a little bit lackluster to say the least. But it does have 8 degrees of gun depression, but on the flip side, it only has 9 degrees of elevation, which is one of the worst bits about the Trinity, or the Mantis even, whereas you see with a lot of the other mercenary tanks like the Trinity having, you know, 20 degrees of elevation, so literally double, and of course better gun depression as well. So yeah, I mean, doesn't have the best gun statistics, doesn't have the best gun kind of handling out there. It's not absolutely crazy, but it doesn't have the best DPM, and it certainly doesn't have the best penetration, with its standard rounds only having 210 and the premium rounds having a decent 280. But the problem is those premium rounds are heat ammunition, which is really annoying for when you're coming up against heavily armored tanks with spaced armor. things like the E100, whereby you just can't pen with standard ammunition, but sometimes if the E100 starts to angle, you just won't pen with heat either, because you don't have the superior penetration, but you also can't go through the side of it with the heat ammo, which kind of sucks as well. So yeah, bit of a problem when it comes to spaced armored vehicles, and there's quite a few down at tier 8 that you'll kind of regret coming up against as well. But the standard ammunition can do a decent amount of damage, provided you are aiming at weak points. But for this kind of review, we ended up just loading full premium, because yeah, I was expecting a lot of tier 10 games, given all of the season pass tanks that we've got at the minute that are given out at tier 10, and with just basically everyone playing tier 10 at the moment. So yeah. Either way, got a couple of clips of HE, probably wouldn't recommend it. In fact, I'd probably swap out this HE entirely and just put 8 rounds of the standard ammunition in there, just so that you get the ability to fire at people that are lightly armoured and maybe are just full of tracks, like French light tanks and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I set up this tank. And in terms of the commander, we've just gone with the bog standard skills, which is 6 Sense or Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Run and Gun, Steady Aim, Camo, Green Thumb, Situational Awareness, and Muffled Shot, all to improve both the camo, view range capabilities, and of course the general performance of the tank, so that we can yeah, spot for our team, but also be able to use our damage per minute as well. So that's how I've set up the tank, but I guess given that it is a bit of Frankenstein, I wonder how this thing actually plays, and so let's take a look as to how these stats translate into the game. So the first map that we do have is of course on Dragon's Ridge. This is a really good map, to be honest with you, and really able to do quite a lot when you have an autoloader, especially when you have the speed that this tank has. And so you can reposition quite nicely, you can get into a position to fire as soon as you're reloaded, which is what makes this tank kind of dangerous and just basically a pure harasser of the enemy team. But it also has the decent view range in the way that we've set it up, such that you don't usually get spotted or outspotted too often in this vehicle, or if something does spot you, often you'll be able to spot it back with the 500 meters view range. Now you can see here we come into this position. This is a tier 10 game, so it's not the best whatsoever in terms of having the matchup, but what we do is we just basically get here to see what the enemy team are doing. I'm not necessarily expecting to get any damage off, because we don't want to basically sit here and then they come up. We might be able to get 2 shots in, we stay a little bit too longer, someone flicks their turret, they hit us, and you know, we've traded badly or traded not very well. So I want to preserve my hit points. We were just simply coming up here for a bit of intelligence as to what the enemy team are going to be doing, and it's often stuff like that that is really crucial for you as a player to actually get better at World of Tanks, is like using the knowledge that you have in the game to be able to kind of decide what you want to do in this game. Now, given the fact there's a lot of people going up on the left hand side of the map, I can quite freely come over here. We've got a house to our right, a wall to our like directly in front, we've got a building to our left, there's houses behind us. There's no real way we can get hit there unless it was from the person we were shooting, so we kind of close down the angle that we can get hit from. I'm attempting to come back here to see whether or not we can open up some more angles, but so far it's not been a terrible game. We've picked up 1800 combined damage, which is, you know, reasonable, but we want to make sure that we're dealing as much damage as possible, and uh-oh, here we go, there's the elevation causing some problems with this tank, and that's because we're so low down to the floor that you do end up with these issues whereby, you know, you try and kind of get into a nice position, but you can find just a small little bump in the terrain can cause a huge difference at the end of your barrel, and you end up kind of missing, or you're not able to get the gun depression. So although it is 8 degrees, it can be a little bit annoying, and you'll find that with even things like the LTG, which in fact has worse gun depression, I believe, anyway, compared to this tank. So that really did feel a little bit horrible. But either way, we're coming in now. We go for the side tracking shot on the arachnid, and then we just keep going for that tracking shot, and there you go, a free couple 100 damage, and then he's finished off by the artillery, who is a bit of a Chad in this game, to be honest, and artillery that actually knows where to be aiming and to help out the team. There's a surprise, yeah, it's rare that ever happens, but Uh-oh, this is not very good. There's a tier 10 who's just came down, and so I decide, you know what, let's go. Let's get this guy out of the game. He's going to be annoying to us. He actually hits us there, which is a bit annoying, but we do hit him again, and we're actually getting him set on fire here. But there is, of course, this batch at 25 TAP who's coming up the slope. Can he actually hit me? Yes, he does. But our friend in the FV 3805 artillery once again coming in quite clutch there to finish that guy off, which was nice because we were never going to be able to reload before he got the next shot off at all, which was great. So we pick up 3,400 damage and also 1,700 assist as well, and so we can start making our way towards the enemy base and of course the last remaining opponents, and given that we are quite fast we should be one of the first ones to reach where the artillery is, because we saw where his rounds are coming in. It was over to the directly in front of us. There was also some other tanks left alive as well. But we don't fully aim here because we're not going to be able to get off all of our shots anyway, so we might as well go for the lucky shots to begin with, as if we wait too long to fully aim, he might have got farmed by some of our teammates and then I don't get any damage anyway. So we went for the shot and we got rewarded for it. But that brings our total up to 4,000 basically, with still the same amount of assistance, but now we can start to go in towards the artillery, who I'm expecting to be directly round this rock. And you can see me pre-aiming it here, and there he is. Now rather than just going blindly through, I'm trying to get some shots into him, obviously aiming at the artillery rather than the medium coming from behind. I want to get this guy out. I had an absolute shambles of an attempt to try and get this guy out. The medium is to my left, so we of course realise that and find our teammate to get behind, and then he finishes off the AMX-30 here with no problems whatsoever, picking up about 7,000 combined damage, well just under, which was really good game in this tank, and of course 2,157 base XP, so a very good game indeed in this tank, showing the kind of upwards capability of the tank. It is quite slow to get that damage, but it does slowly rack up, and you know, the longer you're alive in a game, the more dangerous the tank can be, as you can clip out someone for 900 damage and finish them off before maybe they've only got one shot, or maybe none at all if they bounce or miss or whatever. And considering that this tank is not absolutely huge, it is, you know, possible to potentially miss a shell on this thing, so that's always good as well. Now the next game that we do have is of course on Sunset Coast, one of my kind of least favorite airfield variant maps that we have in the game. And although, you know, we've got have the Halloween maps still in rotation right now, and of course this is the final kind of couple of days that you have with the Halloween maps, given that it is Halloween today, and if you're watching this on Halloween, I hope you have a fantastic Halloween and a happy Halloween to you all. But what we'll do in this game is get up into this location up here so that we can, you know, provide some overview in case they try and YOLO our southern side of the map, as well as being able to be quite flexible on the northern side as well. Now, for some reason, everyone seems to like camping in the base or camping in the southern side of Sunset Coast. I don't know what's gone on recently, but people just do not move over this side. Now, I have no idea why that is, but trust me, sitting in the base in this map, especially on console, is just really bad. And you just won't get enough shots to make your games be really good. You have to be up in the front lines to be able to do anything on this map. And although you might, you know, have 1 or 2 games where you do really well on the game, for the most part you'll find it very difficult to be able to consistently deal a lot of damage on this map sitting in spawn. But apparently our team got the memo as they start to come over to this side to deal with the swathe of enemies that we've got moving towards us, with the Bellerothon man now making a push, but we weren't quite reloaded, as we could have literally farmed this guy for his entire hit points. But apparently no one wants to hit the guy, or actually I take that back, apparently someone did want to hit him. But you can see me here not quite wanting to poke all the way around. I feel like the Leo is still there peeking the kind of ridge and then just holding an angle to get a free shot onto whoever pokes him. So we're not going to give him the satisfaction of actually doing that, and instead we do make a move. The Leo is actually there. He's got very slow trigger fingers, so doesn't actually manage to get his shot off before we've even actually left. down to the rock down here. So yeah, maybe we'll see the Leo later on. But either way, we've got onto this corner. We get hit by the Bellerophon, who's actually moved up without being spotted. I do wait there for the final one because I knew I could have got that one off, but we had to reverse instantly to avoid the next shell coming in. But this is not looking good, and I guess with the number of the devil on the screen at the top right, yeah, it's really proving true in this game. But what we have to do here is at least provide some resistance, because if we just give up here, our team are going to get encircled, we're going to get absolute pumped. So instead, I pull up here with dealing with this Lycan, get him out the game, which will be nice. And of course, we leave him on 2 hit points, which is, yeah, fantastic. But we take the reload instantly. No point in poking the Leo again because he's going to be reloaded. We don't want to take another hit, especially when we've only got 700 of those hit points left to give. Leo starts making his move, and this is really not looking good at all. A lot of our team that could be punishing these guys is actually still sat in C8 and 9, which they can't get any shots on people that are pushing up. So I don't know why people sit there. Of course, this CS52 list, we have some horrendous aim here. There's nothing to really be said except from me just playing terribly. And then, of course, missing the final one. We get into this little groove. But I need to drop away because they're just going to YOLO me if I don't. So we have to drop down here, which allows us to escape at least somewhat. The enemy artillery, obviously, loving the fact that we're playing in a light medium tank. Trying to get us, but yeah, he can honestly go and do one, even if we did like the fact that the FE 3 out of 5 in the last game had our back. But either way, we've got 358 hit points left to trade in this game. The Leo has 320 or maybe 360, so he could potentially one-shot us, but we need to get rid of some of these guys. And the Leo is actually moving up. He does manage to hit us, but he low rolls by the looks of things. Maybe it's 300 alpha actually. But either way, he doesn't manage to finish us off, leaving us on just 50 hit points. But given that the enemy team have kind of thrown away their lead, because they could have quite easily won that, like our team were in some really dodgy positions, and it just would have taken a little bit more initiative from the enemy team to move into like D6 and 7 to actually secure there. And without having to push on this side where this Ragnarok is going, who's apparently joining in with the rest of his teammates. But we've got 1850 damage. So this is like your, probably the more average game in this tank. This is probably what you should be expecting as opposed to the first kind of game. And you can see here we pick up a little bit more. But you really have to kind of feel for this tank when it comes to dealing that damage. Because you can see the Marrow Breaker's on his own. I really want to help him, but the intricate reload and of course the actual reload of this tank is just very long. I mean 20.8 seconds with all of the bonuses possible to deal 960 damage. It's not terrible, but then you've got to take into account the fact that you have to wait an additional 6 seconds after firing your first shell to be able to fully unload, meaning you've got 26 seconds to deal 900 damage. Which is where you get that horrific DPM. But it works really nicely because autoloaders have more effective DPM when you can position yourself. So autoloaders are really kind of focused on making sure that you can kind of position yourself really well. So if you can do that in the game, autoloaders are going to work really nicely for you. And that's the reason why I liked playing the T57 Heavy, even though it doesn't particularly have the most armor in the game. Now the Ragnarok thinks he's funny coming up from behind, but unfortunately for him, the Alpine Tiger finishes him off from the enemy base, getting a nice little clean line of vision on him, finishing him off, and we win the game. And although I didn't manage to come top, we still pick up 2,700 damage with 1,300 base XP, and of course a tiny bit of assistance with 2 enemies taken out and 100,000 silver. So I'm interested to see what you guys think of this tank. Do you recommend it? Do you think that there could be potentially a chance for people to go out and actually purchase this? Are you yourself going to be purchasing this tank? From my opinion, I think it is a reasonable tank that's somewhat novel, somewhat new and unique that you don't usually see, and I think just for that reason I will be picking this one up with my own gold on my account. Given that this is a rental, we will be actually buying it outright so that we can keep it on the account. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out tomorrow's video where we'll be covering our final kind of Halloween game mode-y style video. Maybe not tomorrow, but the day after. And of course, a tank review tomorrow as well. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I'll join you there. Goodbye.